big news.
I'm listening. What do you got?
Critics and parents agree. Paw Patrol, the mighty movie, is hilarious, action-packed, and fun for the whole family.
How do you like me now? That's what I'm talking about.
Paw Patrol, the mighty movie, rated PG, now streaming on Paramount+.
This is Jeopardy Tournament of Champions winner Alex Jacob. You're listening to my weekly mixtape with Brian Colburn, and I hope you enjoy our picks.
Welcome to My Weekly Mixtape, a podcast that takes the classic mixtape approach to building a modern playlist. I'm your host, Brian Colburn. Joining me for tonight's collaboration is Alex Jacob, 2006 United States Poker Championship winner, as well as Jeopardy Tournament of Champions winner. Alex, thank you so much for joining me on My Weekly Mixtape tonight.
Hey, no problem, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure. I'd like to start by asking you the same question I ask everybody at the top of each show. Alex, what does the word mixtape mean to you?
Oh, boy. Well, I'm old enough where we did have cassette tapes when I was a kid. I did have some cassette tapes, but I don't think I was too young to actually make mixtapes on cassette tape. I don't think I ever did that. I was more in the era of burning mixed CDs, which I did plenty of times with MP3s. So I'm very familiar with that. So I guess that would be more my mixtape, the mix CD.
All right. Well, that is perfectly fine because whether it's a mixtape, a mix CD, or a playlist, the thought process is still there. And I know, Alex, you are a big movie and Oscars buff. I think that's safe to say.
Yes, absolutely.
So tonight, Alex and I will be curating a mixtape of 2000's movie soundtrack songs. And this decade, like I mentioned in our 80s and 90s movie soundtrack episodes, was the decade where soundtracks became less of an importance because of the advent of digital downloads and streaming. However, make no mistake about it, there were still a ton of great songs to appear on soundtracks throughout the decade. They just weren't the events that soundtracks were in the 80s or 90s. But there's a ton of great music to choose from. Alex, being such a movie buff and somebody that really pays attention to, you know, the films that are out and the reputation that they have, what were you looking for in the songs that you brought to the table this evening?
Well, I guess I was looking for songs that kind of remind you of that movie. Were kind of so iconic that when you think of that song, you can't help but think of that movie. And, you know, I guess more than anything, I'm looking for songs that kind of create a vibe because that's kind of what you really need in a song used in a movie. It was a tough one because this was not an easy one to like pull up a list of like best songs from movies in the 2000s. Is kind of very specific thing. So you could kind of look at soundtrack albums, but that really wouldn't get you what you're looking for. And, so you kind of had to look through and try to find the gems. I think there's some good ones out there, all kinds of different vibes. So, we'll see what we can come up with.
Well, let's get down to business. Tonight, as I mentioned earlier, Alex and I will be curating the ultimate 2000's movie soundtrack mixtape, and we'll use the old cassette deck approach, meaning our mixtape will be broken up into two sides, side A and side B. Alex, as my special guest, will begin side A with his first song choice, and then I'll add a song that I feel best follows up his choice. We'll then flip-flop choosing songs until we've mapped out 10 songs for side A. We'll then give our mixtape a proverbial flip, and we'll map out side B, only this time I'll kick things off with Alex choosing second. Our overall goal for the episode is to create the best 2000's movie soundtrack mixtape possible through only 20 songs. At the end of the show, you could take our conversation to the next level by visiting the 2000's movie soundtrack page at myweeklymixtape.com to give our final mixtape a listen via the embedded playlist. Finally, if you like what you're hearing on the show, please consider becoming a Patreon mixtaper at patreon.com/myweeklymixtape. And speaking of Patreon mixtapers, a few have chimed in with some of the songs they would use to kick off their 2000's movie soundtrack mixtape with. Patreon playlister David Owens chimed in with Foo Fighters' The One from Orange County. And Patreon playlister Cactus Pete chimed in with two songs, Lustra's Scotty Doesn't Know from Eurotrip, and Steel Dragon's We All Die Young from Rockstar. Elsewhere on the socials, those who follow me at My Weekly Mixtape on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok also chimed in, and here's what they had to say. Paul Moriella chimed in with Yes's Roundabout from Almost Famous. Ben from the Records Revisited podcast chimed in with Blue Foundation, Eyes on Fire from Twilight. Eric, Time to Get Ill, chimed in with Dropkick Murphys, I'm Shipping Up to Boston from The Departed. Sean Faust chimed in with Electric Apricot, Hey, Are You Going to Burning Man from Electric Apricot, Quest for Festeru. Matt Kennedy from the X Radio X podcast chimed in with Santa Esmeralda's Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood from Kill Bill. And Mass Beer Buddy chimed in with Tomoyasu Hotei's Battle Without Honor or Humanity from the same movie. The Media Path podcast chimed in with the School of Rock's cover of AC/DC's It's a Long Way to the Top If You Want to Rock and Roll from School of Rock. Jay Hall from the Okie Bookcast chimed in with Eminem's Lose Yourself from 8 Mile. Ryan Pack from the Soundtrack Your Life podcast chimed in with Foo Fighters' The One from Orange County. Bobby from the Effin' Cultured podcast chimed in with Queen's Don't Stop Me Now from Shaun of the Dead. Prahi chimed in with Lustra's Scotty Doesn't Know from Eurotrip. And Chris Darling chimed in with the Soggy Bottom Boys, I Am a Man of Constant Sorrow from Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? All right, Alex, with that laundry list of songs out in the open, I'm very curious to see how you're going to kick things off tonight. So with that, I'm officially pressing the record button on this mixtape and throwing it over to you. Alex, what song are you kicking off tonight's 2000's movie soundtrack mixtape with, and why?
Okay, well, I believe when you told me about this theme, this was the one song that came to mind, and I even told you right then that you can cross this one off your list because I will be starting the mixtape with this one. This was a number one hit. This was an Oscar-winning song. So I'm sure this won a couple Grammys. This song inspired the name of the artist's restaurant where they serve mom spaghetti. Mm-hmm. Of course, you're talking about Lose Yourself by Eminem from 8 Miles. It's just, an all-time banger and a song that you kind of really needs to be good because the whole movie is kind of built around the idea that this is like a real talent, and it's kind of a moment that he needs to nail. And I would say everyone would agree that he just nails it. And,
oh yeah,
it's a great song to start off, an album. I think a mixtape. It gets you pumped up right off the bat. And so I figure we'll start off with that one. I want to, I know this is a collaborative effort, but, I'm a competitive guy, I'm always playing to win. So if there's a way to win or lose here, I want to try to win. So I'm going to try to take this one off the board because I feel like this would be one that you would want to pick. So I want this one for myself.
I completely get it. I'm a competitive guy as well, and that's something that we do on Playlist Wars. And you are absolutely right. I did have Lose Yourself on my mix. It was the first ever hip-hop song to win an Academy Award for Best Original Song. It's iconic. When we did sports anthems, when I had Frank the Tank from Barstool Sports on, it obviously made the sports anthems mix. The song is so iconic. When you play it in a stadium, everybody knows what you're talking about. Everybody knows what's happening. It is a universally beloved song, and I think it's a perfect way to kick things off. Now, I don't have a ton of hip hop on my list. However, I do have a song that I feel like, because Lose Yourself did have a little bit of a rock vibe because of the guitar loop that went underneath the bars he was dropping. I feel like I could lean into this with a little bit of a nu metal touch and still keep the vibe going. And I'm going to go off of a movie that, well, let's just say is not very popular among comic book fans, and that would be 2003's Daredevil. Obviously, people love the Netflix and soon-to-be Disney Plus show a lot more. However, the movie did spawn a great soundtrack, and one of the songs exploded a band into the mainstream who has been around since 2003 because of the song Bring Me to Life, featuring Paul McCoy of 12 Stones. I'm going with Evanescence, Bring Me to Life. Their debut album, Fallen, is 7 times platinum, so people tend to forget that their signature song came out on the Daredevil soundtrack 3 months prior before Fallen ever hit the shelves. And it's just a kick-ass song. So I am following you up with Evanescence, Bring Me to Life.
Oh boy, great choice. Yeah, I would have not known. I mean, that was kind of a classic rock radio hit when I was a kid. And I had no idea that was from Daredevil movie. Yeah, another song that just really brings a vibe. So that's a great one. I'm trying to see what I could go to match with that one.
This is where the challenge lies now.
Yeah, you know what? I got one that kind of has kind of a similar moody, emo type vibe that kind of you could pair it with that a little bit. Not the exact same, but this one was a cover of a song, and I wasn't really familiar with the song by Tears for Fears, the original, until I saw this cover version in the movie. And this was like one of these movies that was kind of like a cult classic for if you're of a certain age, that kind of either it blew your mind or you didn't get it or whatever. The movie is Donnie Darko and the song is Mad World. It's by Gary Jules and Michael Andrews, this version. But it's very stripped down. I don't know if have you seen the movie, Brian? Do you remember what I'm talking about?
But a lot of my friends are a massive fan of that movie. So
yeah, it's one of those. I don't know if a lot of people have gone back and watching it, but maybe it's kind of one of those where you had to be there. But it might hold up. You know, it's a weird movie. It'd probably hold up well. But I haven't seen it in a while myself. But that song really stands out from that movie, and just kind of just a really haunting version of that song. And that's my pick. Hard to explain, to describe a song that you haven't heard, but I'm sure you're going to hit me with a couple songs that I haven't heard either.
Actually, believe it or not, I am a cover song fanatic, so I know the song.
I should have known.
But I do not know the movie. However, in my defense, both the 80s and 90s soundtrack episode, I brought up songs from soundtracks that I own to movies that I've never seen. So it's kind of a common theme with me being the music nerd and all. But I love the fact that you went with a cover, and I am going to follow you up with a cover, but it's going to be a different style of cover, whereas this version was a kind of a brooding vibe I think you'd go with. The song that I'm going to pick is far from brooding and certainly more upbeat and more bombastic. And this cover came out in a little movie from 2009 called The Watchmen. This song, originally recorded by Bob Dylan in 1965, was remade by My Chemical Romance, and that song is Desolation Row. To me, that I love movie cover songs because you're familiar with the song already, but then you hear a new take, and when you put it into The Watchmen, it makes perfect sense. And coming out of your cover, I'd like to follow a cover with a cover because I don't have a ton of covers in my list, but coming out of Gary Jules and Michael Andrews, I feel like this one actually makes sense. So My Chemical Romance, Desolation Row from The Watchmen.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good one. I think that movie also doesn't it start with Times Are Changing by Dylan as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one. All right. What should we do next? All right. I'm going to go with a song that really is one of these songs that I think of when I was talking about a song that really creates a vibe. And this is a song in a movie where they reach the title location and it's kind of glorious, and this song plays, and the song is Porcelain by Moby. The movie is The Beach.
Ooh.
And it's kind of one of these, I wish I could try to sing it for you. It's kind of one of those riffs that if you hear it, you will, if you don't know the song by the title, you would recognize it by hearing it, and just kind of, it's just kind of the perfect song where they show up to the beach and it's just like beautiful and party time. And yeah, it's a vibe.
It's a great song. And believe it or not, the way that you're going with a song that kind of signifies the entire movie, that gives me something that I can easily bounce off of. I'm not the most massive Moby fan, but that is a song that you're absolutely right is a vibe in and of itself. And I think the song that I picked, while it's a different style musically, I think achieves the same thing that you were looking for in Moby's contribution to The Beach. And this was a movie that came out in 2008. And at the time, Mickey Rourke was on a career explosion. And he reached out to Bruce Springsteen and asked if he could write a song for his upcoming movie. And Springsteen subsequently did and gave it to Mickey Rourke and the director without charging them a fee, which was really cool. And the song did win a Golden Globe for Best Original Song. And it was featured on the soundtrack to 2008's The Wrestler, as well as a bonus track on Bruce Springsteen's 2009's Working on a Dream. I'm going with Bruce Springsteen, The Wrestler.
Yeah, great one. I think they snubbed it at the Oscars, if I recall, and it was kind of kind of a shock, especially after it won the Golden Globe. But
I thought it was a lock. I have no idea how that one did not win. I mean, what an amazing song to capture the essence of that movie. And Bruce Springsteen really captured that moment well. So to me, that song is a vibe because when you hear it, you're immediately brought into the movie. Like, I can't not picture the movie hearing that song.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see what else I got. Well, here's another one that also is kind of just reminds me of that movie. And although this song has taken on a life of its own for sure, but if you've seen this movie, it's used very memorably in the movie. And I realized my lead up has not given any interesting details or facts that would give anything away. But I was like, how can I really haven't hinted at anything at all. But I'll just say it. The song is The Blower's Daughter by Damien Rice from the movie Closer. Another one of these songs that maybe you wouldn't recognize the title, or a lot of people would, but if you didn't, you've almost certainly heard it. And just kind of one of those all-time like haunting songs that just kind of makes you feel something right away. Mm-hmm. And that is used especially well in Closer, which I especially like. So that is my pick for the next one.
That is actually a movie, again, that I haven't seen, but I am familiar with Damien Rice, and that is a fantastic pick. Especially coming out of Bruce Springsteen, it actually makes sense on both a movie and musical level. So coming out of Damien Rice, I'm actually going to go with another cover song. But I feel like this is one of those covers where it's a let's be honest moment. Most people didn't know it was a cover song. The original came out in 1913. So obviously our parents maybe knew the song. And there were several notable renditions. Once again, Bob Dylan did a 62 version, as well as Ginger Baker's Air Force in 1970. But the song that I am choosing is the version that was created for the 2000 movie, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And I'm going with the Soggy Bottom Boys, I Am a Man of Constant Sorrow. Once again, it's a vibe in and of itself. It's that bluegrass. And seeing George Clooney, he almost convinced me that he was singing it in the movie. Like he handled that part well, because I know that's not him singing it. And it was convincing enough in the movie, because it was almost like another movie, which I might bring up later. So I'm going to put a pin in that for now and not talk about it yet. But when you see an actor you're very familiar with taking on a singing role, knowing that they probably can't sing, they have to really sell it for you to buy the role. And I bought the role that he played in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? So I'm going to go with that one. The Soggy Bottom Boys, I Am a Man of Constant Sorrow.
Yeah. That one was on my list. I should have called that one out sooner, take that one away from you. No, definitely a good pick. Definitely one that you and you hear that, you get that visual of George Clooney kind of straining his face close to the microphone.
Yeah.
Singing that one. So what should I do to follow up with that one? Well, I guess I will go with one. Maybe it's not the best connection, but it kind of feels like it's a similar song, and this might be an obvious one, but I'm a sucker for the Counting Crows, and not everyone is a fan of them, but this was it was a massive movie song and a massive movie, whether you like it or not. And it's Shrek 2 song is Accidentally in Love. I think it comes right at the beginning of the movie, and there's a real extended sequence with it, and this kind of sets the tone and gets you in a good mood. And they can write a melody and a lyric, so that's my pick.
Absolutely love it. I have 2 kids that, oh my God, if I saw the Shrek movies any less than 500 times now, and there's something about that song that every time it comes on, I'm like, I'm kind of all right with this. And it's kind of that feeling that, like when I explained in the 90s movie soundtrack episode, for a song like, if you see a movie a bunch of times, a song really needs to be strong in order to give you a connection to that movie. So my favorite movie of all time is That Thing You Do. And quote marks in the air here, the Wonders play that song no less than a dozen times in the movie. And no matter how many times I've seen the movie and how many times I've heard the song, I never get sick of it because Adam Schlesinger was able to write the perfect pop earworm that just sinks into your soul throughout the movie. And Counting Crows do that exact same thing. And they are a fantastic group. I absolutely love the song. And I actually know what I'm going to close out side A with. It's from a movie that, to put it nicely, was one that I certainly did not enjoy very much. I guess that's the nicest way I could put it. However, the soundtrack produced one of my favorite songs of the entire decade, movie soundtrack or not. And that song is Teenage Dirtbag by Wheatus. And the movie is 2000's Loser. The soundtrack came out several months before the band's first album. Again, this is not a movie that I would, if we were just talking about movies, I would not put the movie Loser in the same conversation as 8 Mile, Donnie Darko, The Watchmen, The Beach, come on. But the song coming out of the Counting Crows actually works, and I'm going to close out side A with Wheatus, Teenage Dirtbag.
Yeah, this is another one that was, very familiar to me growing up and was kind of almost inescapable if you were in my age group, but I did not really connect it with the movie Loser at all. I mean, maybe because I never saw the movie Loser.
You're not missing much. Yes, it was.
Okay, yeah. But great song, obviously. Her name was Noelle. Just one of those choruses that just get stuck in your head and just will never go away. Great song.
Couldn't agree more. And that Mixtapers concludes side A of our 2000s movie soundtracks mixtape, which consists of Eminem's Lose Yourself from 8 Mile, Evanescence Bring Me to Life with Paul McCoy of 12 Stones from the movie Daredevil, Gary Jules and Michael Andrews' Mad World from Donnie Darko, My Chemical Romance Desolation Row from The Watchmen, Moby's Porcelain from The Beach, Bruce Springsteen's The Wrestler from the movie of the same name, Damian Rice's The Blower's Daughter from Closer, the Soggy Bottom Boys' I Am a Man of Constant Sorrow from Oh Brother Where Art Thou, Counting Crows' Accidentally in Love from Shrek 2, and Wheatus' Teenage Dirtbag from the movie Loser. Head over to myweeklymixtape.com to hear all the songs we've discussed in this mix through the playlist embedded on the episode page. Now, Alex, as I mentioned at the top of the show, you were a Jeopardy Tournament of Champions winner, as well as the 2006 United States Poker Championship winner, and you've also played in the World Championship for poker. So a question that I am wondering, if you had to choose between the two, for you as a competitive person, like you said earlier, which was more of a stressful competition for you? Was it poker or was it Jeopardy, and why?
Probably Jeopardy, primarily because I was a lot older when I was on Jeopardy versus when I was playing in poker tournaments. And I just feel like you feel that weight more, when you're young. It's kind of like, I've got infinite opportunities to come back and do, especially something like a poker tournament where you literally do have, the next poker tournament to come back to, versus Jeopardy that is, can just be a one and done. If you lose, then you don't get a chance to come back and try again. So, I would probably say Jeopardy, but it's kind of different things. Obviously the stress of kind of making all these tough decisions can definitely add up, versus on Jeopardy, you're kind of just firing on instinct and giving your answer, giving answers for a lot of the time. You don't have time to think. It's kind of more fast paced. Whereas, Nola but Hold'em, they kind of say it's kind of like hours of boredom and then moments of terror,
So with that, in playing poker, you have to go all in on bets and you have to kind of take your chances when you feel it's time to strike. And I feel like you took that approach when you played Jeopardy by doing the all in on the daily double. Was that based on your experiences in the poker tournaments as almost as a way to maybe, I don't want to say play mind games with your opponents, but to kind of like psych them out, to show a confidence that here I am, take everything I've got and throw it at this one question that I don't even know what the question is?
It's like maybe like a byproduct and maybe a bonus, but no, like it's more just based on a strategy of kind of maximizing, if I feel like I have a good chance of getting the answer right. And, the situation is, it's worth a lot to kind of have more than double your opponent's score at the end, because then you don't have to kind of have a lock runaway game and you don't have to worry about potentially losing the game in Final Jeopardy, right? So a lot of times, it makes sense to try to put the game away early, because the question on the daily double will a lot of times be easier than the question that you'll have to get right in Final Jeopardy anyway. So if you're going to bet on one or the other, you might as well, bet on the daily doubles. So, it's kind of just, if you connect it to poker, it's just kind of that mindset that like, well, if I'm a big favorite in this hand, I want to risk all my money. I want to bet all the money. I want to bet the most money I possibly can, because I know I'm a big favorite to win this hand or answer this question correctly, as the case may be.
Well, Alex, in December of 2021, you took your Jeopardy experience to another level and created the School of Trivia, which is both a trivia newsletter and a quiz league. Can you tell the My Weekly Mixtape listeners a little bit about what you're doing over there?
Yeah, sure. So it's on Substack. Monday through Friday, you get a email in your inbox that basically I write about a trivia topic with a famous person or an event or a movie or something like that. And then I'll have a 5-question quiz kind of inspired by that topic, not directly based on it, but kind of playing off it in some way. Then everyone submits there's a link to submit your answers, and the answers are due at the end of the week, and I score all those up. And we have a bunch of different skill divisions, so you're kind of paired up against people who you kind of roughly have the same knowledge level as you, and we have a new season every month, so kind of we add up the scores, and the top finishers in each division kind of move up, and the bottom finishers move down, and we kind of continue like that. It's kind of like the Premier League type system of promotion and relegation, but that's basically how it works. It's people have been giving me a lot of good feedback about it. We've been going for, like you said, about a little over a year now, and got a little over 300 players at this point. So people are having fun with it. It's going well.
Fantastic. We'll talk about that a little bit more after we go through side B, which I get to kick things off with now. And I think I'm going to start off side B with a rock song that is actually a cover And it's by a fictitious band that was created for the movie, based off of, loosely, a real band in the 1980s. And I'm going to go with 2001's Rockstar. Earlier, I mentioned that if you're an actor and you have to perform a song in a movie, you have to convince me. And Mark Wahlberg, I knew he was a musician because of Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, but when I heard he was in a rock movie based off of what was the 80s Judas Priest story, loosely, I wasn't buying in on it at first, because I said, how is he going to pull off an 80s rock star? And sure enough, he actually did a bang up job on the part. I genuinely enjoy this movie, but this fictitious band, Steel Dragon, is actually made up of some amazing musicians. You had Miljenko Matijevic of Steelheart on vocals, Zach Wilde of Black Label Society and Ozzy Osbourne on guitar, Jeff Pilson of Dokken and Foreigner on bass, and Jason Bonham, son of John Bonham, on drums. Now, the singer actually originally recorded this song, We All Die Young, with his band Steelheart, who was known for their hair band hit, I'll Never Let You Go, in 1990. But in 1996, on their album Wait, they recorded this song, We All Die Young. And when they made the Rockstar movie, the song was re-recorded by this all-star band for the movie. And Marky Mark did a great job lip-syncing it because he sold the part. So I'm kicking things off with 2001's Rockstar and Steel Dragon, We All Die Young.
All right. Well, I'm gonna have to look that one up. That's definitely a blind spot, both that movie and I guess obviously if I haven't seen the movie, I probably wouldn't have heard the song. Trying to see, so it's kind of like an 80s
Picture
rock.
a late 80s hard rock. Think Poison,
Right.
think Warren, think Bon Jovi. That kind of middle ground hair band, so to speak.
Okay, and Mark Wahlberg said he really nailed it. But he doesn't sing the song, obviously.
No, he lip synced it, but he lip synced it
Right.
well enough where, like George Clooney did in the Soggy Bottom Boys, you actually
Right.
believed, he was embodying that role.
So it's kind of an original song, but not quite.
It's half and half, exactly.
All right. I have one that kind of connects on that basis and not much else.
That's fine.
I believe the actors are singing this song, and I think they, like Wahlberg, although he's not actually singing it, I think they nail it too. And this song, it turned out, could not be eligible for the Oscars because it was not original song technically, because it had been written first for the director's Romeo and Juliet film that came out earlier, but they decided to not use it. I don't know why they wrote a song for that movie, if they planned Leo to sing or if it was before they had cast it or what the issue was. But for whatever reason, the song was written for the Romeo and Juliet movie with Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes. They did not use it. Ended up in the movie Moulin Rouge. And the song is Come What May, performed by Ewan McGregor and Nicole Kidman in the movie. And it's one of these songs where they kind of repeat the title or the chorus over and over again, and just like harder and harder and harder until it's just like kind of breaking your ears, and just like the intensity of it. It just keeps going. And I feel like it's a semi connection based on the half original nature of it, but that's what I picked there.
Well, I had Moulin Rouge in my list, but I had Christina Aguilera, Little Kim, Pink, and Maya's Lady Marmalade because you couldn't escape that song in 2001, but the whole movie is filled with fantastic songs, and that's another great one from the soundtrack. I actually like that pick more with where we're going because I feel like I have something that I could follow that up with. Whereas if it was Lady Marmalade, I would have been lost in the water because looking through my list, it's a lot of rock music, and Lady Marmalade was sticking out like a sore thumb. So I'm actually kind of thankful that you got something else from that movie in. And I'm going to go back to the year 2000 again. And I'm going to go with another super group of performers. This song was written by the movie's director, Cameron Crowe, along with Nancy Wilson of Heart. And the performers on the track include Pearl Jam's Mike McCready as lead guitarist, the aforementioned Nancy Wilson on rhythm guitar, and Marty Fredrickson, who is an amazing music producer, on lead vocals. Now, as soon as I say the movie name, Almost Famous, everyone's going to think of Elton John's Tiny Dancer from that iconic scene in the movie. However, I was trying to keep my created for the movie parameters that I set for myself. And the song that I'm choosing is the quote unquote original song Fever Dog by the fictitious band Stillwater from the movie Almost Famous.
Right. I thought about doing something like that. Yeah, I thought the same thing about Tiny Dancer. And, that song is too famous outside of the movie, I think, for my frame. Not
right.
Quite associated enough with the movie, even though you do think of that scene when you think of the movie. A Fever Dog. Yeah. I remember the movie well, and yeah, great movie. Kind of like a really an all-time favorite.
Highly recommend. They only have it on DVD for some reason, but there is a director's cut, which there's certain movies where I'm like, sometimes less is more in a movie, but we're talking Cameron Crowe here, and the movie actually with the added scenes, I feel like enhances the movie more and kind of brings it to the next level, where sometimes the director's cut, you kind of understand why they trimmed it down for succinctness sometimes, but not in this one.
Yeah. I've seen that longer version. There's a couple weird things in there,
of
but
course,
I think
with
overall,
everyone.
Overall, it's worth it. Cameron Crowe had like a great run, and then like he's kind of one of these guys who just like completely fell off. I mean, who knows? Hopefully, he'll be back one day.
I hope so.
He'll be back on top.
Yeah, great director.
He's kind of in a cold streak right now, and We Bought a Zoo in Aloha Land.
Yep.
But, okay, so you went with Fever Dog. This is a similar, well, not that similar, but this might be the closest thing I have. Kind of a rock vibe. This band I grew up with was kind of a local band to my area in South Florida, and they were part of this genre that was real big when I was a kid, which is like this like pop punk emo type melange. And the band is Dashboard Confessional, and they put together probably one of the more mainstream type songs they ever put together. They kind of harnessed all of their like raw emotion that is in like their more whinier songs, but kind of with a more like a song that you could actually put as the lead single for, a movie, a soundtrack to a movie like Spider-Man 2, and it kind of still works. And he sells the vocal, you believe that he is vindicated, and he knew it all along, I don't know. I just remember seeing that one in the theaters, and I was like, oh wow, Dashboard Confessional's got a song in the Spider-Man movie. Look at this. And I don't know, that one hits for me. I'm sure this might be a polarizing one. This might be a love it or hate it, but I guess I'm more of a maximalist, so I'll take all the extra emotion and whatever.
Well, I love it. I'm a big comic book movie fan, and like I said, once a movie is chosen, it's off the table. But you have removed Spider-Man 2 from the list, which means I could easily follow this up, and I'm going to follow this up with a song from a few years earlier on 2002's Spider-Man soundtrack. It's a different movie, so it counts. They both came out in the same decade.
Sure, it's fair.
And following it up, I'm going to go with the song was originally on the soundtrack, released by Corey Taylor alone, and the song is called Bother. However, when the song exploded, Stone Sour took the song onto their self-titled album, which the soundtrack to Spider-Man 1 came out in April, and Stone Sour released their debut album in August of 2002. But the song Bother is such a beautiful acoustic ballad that when you're coming from Slipknot and you're starting this new project, and you can almost tell they didn't know if it was going to just be Corey Taylor or if it was Stone Sour. So on the soundtrack, it's listed as Corey Taylor, but on the Stone Sour album, it's a band song. Now, I never thought these words would come out of my mouth, but the Dashboard Confessional song is actually quote-unquote heavier than the Corey Taylor song, but it fits the Spider-Man theme. And I love the fact that we both had songs from comic book movies in this fold. And I feel like following up Dashboard Confessional with Corey Taylor and Stone Sour just works really well here. So I'm going to Spider-Man 1, Corey Taylor, and Bother.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I knew you were going to hit me with the deep cuts, of course. I mean, we're on your turf here, and this is your world. And so this one I is another blind spot for me. I'll definitely admit Corey Taylor Bother. So it's kind of an acoustic,
really mellow, really acoustic, type. The opposite of Slipknot.
Gotcha. All right. Well, if we're going down to chill and just kind of a beautiful acoustic song, kind of lush orchestration, I think of this band, and I had a couple songs from this band that I was deciding between, and one of them is from the movie Vanilla Sky, and I think it's near the end of the movie, and just kind of this haunting scene. I know I keep using that word, but I guess that's the vibe I've chosen for a lot of talk about another word I keep using. But I didn't go with that one. I went with a song also at the end of one of my favorite movies called The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. The song is, I think it's called Starelfur, which I believe means staring elf. It's by the band Sigur Rós, the Icelandic band. So this is in the movie. If you've seen it, it's the scene where they, in the movie, they're kind of, Steve Zissou, played by Bill Murray, is kind of searching for this jaguar shark that ate one of his crewmen and his friend, and they finally encounter the jaguar shark at the end of the movie, and this song plays, and it's just this beautiful moment. And, at one point, Bill Murray says, I wonder if it remembers me. And, it's this solemn moment. Everyone puts their hands on him, and, it's hard to explain, but it's just, I guess if you know the band Sigur Rós, then you kind of have an idea of the type of thing I'm talking about, but just kind of a really beautifully composed song.
Certainly is. Definitely one of Bill Murray's. That was when he was doing a lot of stuff like the Lost in Translation. He was doing a lot more serious stuff, whereas finally post 2010 was where he started to dabble back into comedies again with his little cameo in Zombieland, as well as the hit that he did in, Ghostbusters Afterlife, which was not as much a comedy, but I'm glad to see that he was branching out and doing these other movies because they were absolutely fantastic. But what I'm going to do now is we've had Dashboard Confessional, Stone Sour, and Corey Taylor's acoustic. We had Sigur Rós. I want to pick back up the pace again because we got 4 songs left. We got 2 picks each, and I want to kind of pick the pace up and get us moving again to kind of close out with a bang. And I think in order to do that, I'm going to go with a song that I also talked about on our Sports Anthems episode. So it's a newer song, and yet in a short time since 2006, it has become a sports anthem, mostly in the Boston area, but also Notre Dame plays this song, and it is from the movie The Departed, and I'm going with Dropkick Murphys, I'm Shipping Up to Boston. This song will probably make every punk list I do for the decade. It'll make sports anthems, and it's definitely making soundtracks. It was not recorded for The Departed, so I'm breaking my rule here, but the 2000 soundtracks were definitely tougher to find original material, and I kind of wanted to pick up the pace a little bit and go with something a little heavier. So Dropkick Murphys, I'm shipping up to Boston from the amazing Departed.
Right? Yeah, that's an iconic one for sure. The bagpipes come in, right? That one, yeah. This was a tough task coming up with these songs, because it's not, like you said, it's like, I feel like a lot of the ones we've named are like definitely iconic movie songs, but like a lot of these might struggle to make like an all-time list. Like some of them, like Lose Yourself would probably, and Man of Constant Sorrow, but some of the other ones maybe not. But anyway, so still some good music.
Yeah, the 2000s were kind of an anomaly when it comes to soundtracks, because at this point, you had downloads, you had streaming, and the soundtracks were not as much of an event as they were in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. So we're kind of following that path, and you're seeing it come out in these songs, but it doesn't mean that they're not great songs. However, they weren't as iconically attached to the movies as they were in the past.
Yeah. All right. So I'm kind of running out of picks here. You took some of mine, and I don't know that I really have anything that would really follow up with Dropkick Murphys very well. I may have to just do a complete 180 at the end of the
I mean, look, most soundtracks are nothing but 180s. So to have that incorporated in these episodes is perfectly fine to me. Because at the end of the day, not all soundtracks are stuck to a specific genre. And I feel like we've represented that pretty well tonight, actually.
Yeah. All right. Well, if we're, you picked a song that went hard, I guess I will go with a song. Well, I'm nervous because I only have a couple of picks here, and I'm nervous. This one, neither of these will probably fit with your pick, but one of them is like more likely that you'll steal it. But then I don't think you will steal it, really, realistically. So I probably am fine. But if you do steal it, I may have to scramble and think of another song. I guess I'll just gamble a little bit and go with this one. And like I said, it doesn't really fall off the Dropkick Murphys. Although I would say this song does go hard. So maybe it does kind of fit along with that. It goes hard, just like the Dropkick Murphys go hard. And I guess I'll just simply say, Charlie, How Your Angels Get Down Like That. It's Independent Women, Part 1, Destiny's Child from Charlie's Angels. A number one hit song, just kind of a song that you couldn't really escape at the time. Obviously, Beyonce went on to greater things, just kind of a classic from that era, I would say.
Absolutely. Of course, 100%. And look, even though it's a pop song, Destiny's Child went hard. You think about songs like Survivor, you think about songs like this. Like, I get what you're saying. They do go hard in a different style. So I love the pick, actually, coming out of Dropkick Murphys, because I do look at the list and there's not a lot of female artists represented, not a ton. And so I'm glad we're finally getting, you had Nicole Kidman and Evanescence, but it's been pretty. True. So I'm glad to see that. And I think I'm going to follow it up with another female artist who the band has delved into pop more recently. However, when you rewind back, I'm going to go with when they were a little bit more on the rock side of the spectrum. And I'm going to say the truth. I've never seen this movie. And as soon as I say it, your immediate response is going to be like, sure, you haven't seen that movie, Brian. But the movie is 2008's Twilight. I kid you not. I have never seen it, but I do own the soundtrack, and I own the soundtrack for a couple of songs. But the reason I bought it was Decode by Paramore. I absolutely love Hayley Williams' voice, and she's done stuff with B.O.B. She did Airplanes. And if you listen to Paramore's newer music, it's definitely more pop oriented. So I feel like coming out of Destiny's Child, another powerful female vocalist goes really well here. And the Twilight movies, I hope that's not the one I'm stealing. I hope that wasn't your closer, because this was definitely a big. And when I had Collective Soul on the show, Will Turpin was talking about Tremble for My Beloved, which came from this album. And we talked about the fact that Twilight was one of your last tentpole soundtracks that everybody was running out to get that wasn't a Disney movie. And it's really true. This was the last time a movie soundtrack was really sought after, notwithstanding musicals like in the 2010s, The Greatest Showman and stuff like that. And then obviously Frozen and Moana and your Disney movies. But Twilight was the last big original music for a soundtrack, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. I mean, I may shock you. I haven't seen it either.
All right. Then at least I'm not alone.
Say that. Yeah, I don't say that proudly or anything, because I actually have, hear that people are kind of reclaiming those movies, and they just, kind of say they're fun, and maybe I will, get to them at some point. But for whatever reason, I never had the sense of urgency to see those either. But I love Paramore. I'm gonna have to check out that song.
Oh, it's fantastic. It could be my favorite song from them.
But I mean, I've probably heard it, and I just don't know it by the title.
It's not one of those songs where the title is used in the song. So I'm almost positive if you're a fan of Paramore, you know this song. It's a little slower,
Sure.
a little heavier, a little melodic. So I feel like it still fits the vibe that we're actually creating throughout side B here. But now you have as the honor of kicking things off, which you did in grand style with Eminem's Lose Yourself from 8 Mile, you get to close us out tonight with the final song of the night.
Okay, so you said it's Paramore, but it's slower and more melodic, but it's still kind of upbeat, or
it's slower and heavier for sure, but it's more of a melodic emo power ballad, if that makes sense.
Oh, all right. Well, I guess. Well, what is your philosophy? If I could end it on a up note or a chill, you would want to more end it on an up, right?
Sure.
You think, or
yeah.
Because I have like a more chill one. It's like it's kind of like doesn't really move the needle.
Well, then let's move that needle then.
All right. Well, actually, I guess I have one that would kind of fit the slower and heavier. But that kind of way I mean, that's kind of the vibe we got on the back half, right? I guess that's just more of the same, right?
Yeah.
Guess I'm trying to think if I should go for with the Dropkick Murphys Independent Women vibe, or the Sigur Rós type vibe. All right, I'll just go with this. It's kind of a slower and heavier song, but I think it's a good one. Artist is Beck. Song is Everybody's Gotta Learn Sometime, from one of my favorite movies probably of all time, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Yeah, just one of those where the chorus just hits you, and it's kind of more of a downbeat thing. Maybe it's not the best to end the album with, but it kind of goes with what we're going with here, and at the moment in the song. Do you know the song?
Yeah, I'm a fan of Beck. I think that's a great way to, because this side is a little bit more rock leaning. It's a little bit, there's some downer, like I don't want to say down as in downtrodden, but there's some definitely slower songs on this side. It's a little more introspective, and I love this pick to close it, especially coming out of Paramore. I think it works really well.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you. You're very positive, Brian. You're a very good collaborator here.
Likewise. Well, here we go. We now have side B mapped out. We started with Steel Dragons, We All Die Young from the movie Rockstar, Ewan McGregor and Nicole Kidman's Come What May from Moulin Rouge, Stillwater's Fever Dog from Almost Famous, Dashboard Confessionals Vindicated from Spider-Man 2, Stone Sour or Corey Taylor, depending on how you look at it, Bother from Spider-Man, Sigur Rós Starlafore from The Life Aquatic, Dropkick Murphys I'm Shipping Up to Boston from The Departed, Destiny's Child Independent Women Part 1 from Charlie's Angels, Paramore's Decode from Twilight, and Beck Everybody's Gotta Learn Sometime from Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Head over to myweeklymixtape.com to hear all the songs we've discussed in this mix through the playlist embedded on the episode page. Alex, why don't you remind people again where they can find out more about the School of Trivia and hopefully sign up to become part of some of your weekly events?
Sure. You can check it out at schooloftrivia.com. It's on Substack. You can find me on Twitter at whoisAlexJacob. And it's a fun time. It's $8 a month for the Monday through Friday league, or if you want to check it out and try it first, I do a kind of on Sundays, kind of a weekly free version of it. So kind of dip your toe in there. And schooloftrivia.com.
Fantastic. Alex, thank you so much for joining me on My Weekly Mixtape, and hope to have you back on the show again sometime.
Yeah, thanks so much. Appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Remember, Mixtapers, you can find My Weekly Mixtape on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at My Weekly Mixtape. You can also head to myweeklymixtape.com to check out the full catalog of My Weekly Mixtape episodes. If you want to support the show, please consider becoming a Patreon Mixtaper at patreon.com/My Weekly Mixtape. That's all for this week. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, enjoy the tunes.
What's your legacy? Miami-Dade residents produce 6 pounds of trash daily. Much of that is plastic and will remain in our environment long after we're gone. Be part of the solution. Eliminate single-use plastic. More at miamidade.gov/plasticfree305.
Hey folks, Stefan Shirazi and Renee Richardson here from the Metallica Report.
And we are proud members of the Pantheon podcast family, where the best of music and podcasts unite.
We've got something pretty cool for you. We're giving away an exclusive Metallica merch package worth over $250.
That's a whole lot of Scary Guys, Skulls, M72, and other sought-after Metallica swag. And we've made it easy for you to win. Follow and share the Metallica Report, and you're in the game. Go to pantheonpodcast.com/Metallica, enter your email, and hit that button to be entered to win.
And just like that, you're eligible for our monthly exclusive Metallica merch package.
And guess what, rockers? You can enter every month, so just do it. And while we love our global brothers and sisters, the lawyers won't let us ship outside the U.S.